I'm Scott Moore, and I'm a performance engineer. I help to make software and applications faster, better, more resilient. Join me as we take the Performance Tour. Welcome to the Performance Tour. This is Alexander Podelko, the famous performance engineer that everybody knows online, and I get to interview him. He's also been a really good friend of mine for years and years and years. So for those who don't know you, the two performance engineers in the world that don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about you.
So my name is Alex Podelko. I started to do performance testing and performance engineering in 1997. By some reason, Intel decided to make performance lab in Moscow.
Okay.
I still don't know why they did, but
They had a good reason.
Presented me my career for the.
That's what started it all.
Yeah. And then I moved to the United States, work for Hyperion, Aetna, then get back to Hyperion, which was acquired by Oracle. So now I am a consulting member of technical staff at Oracle, working with Hyperion products, also known as enterprise performance management, business performance here, doing performance testing and optimization of these products.
My company and myself, we've had to test Hyperion solutions a few times. And I remember the first time I saw you, I think it was Mercury World, probably 2003. You were presenting on, hard to do protocols. I think it was some kind of title like that. And you had a lot of code examples. And I just noticed that all the geeks like me were watching every slide, and we want copies of the slides so we can get your code. And the other half of the people who were not technical, their eyes were just kind of glazing over because they didn't understand what you were saying. But so do you still find after all this time that you still kind of have those two kinds of audiences where it's like you have the hardcore engineer, technical people, and then you have the people who want to be, but they're just like, they don't get it, they never really learned to do it the hard way, and they just want to do it the easy way?
In all audience, you usually have some mixed. There is very few, I don't remember even where exactly, could be pure performance testers who could get all of it. So usually you have either testing conference, whereas 80% are rather functional testers, or at CMG you have many who do capacity planning or monitoring. They're also not so interested in details of performance testing. Yes, and that is a challenge. So some people want just to get introduction, and some want advanced knowledge. I think it is the same in all areas.
You write a lot of blog articles, you have your own site. I've recently seen companies that are quoting you on some of your blog articles about where you see the world is going in terms of performance engineering and what's happening. There's this shift that's going on between commercial and open source tools and the way we did things 10, 20 years ago and the way things are happening today. What are your overall just general thoughts about where we're at in terms of performance testing and performance engineering, and with all the DevOps and agile development cycles? Just can you share just kind of your observations of where you think we're at today?
I write about it because I am interested in this. I try to understand for myself where we're going. Yes, it's definitely changing. Actually, agile, in a way, it is simplification of our work. So, for example, when at Oracle we switched to agile cycle, I have working built all the time. So from the beginning, not last minute before release when everybody.
Right.
And I do it all the time. So in that sense, it's easy, and that really shifted it left. But that brings need for automation. You don't want to do everything yourself.
Right.
So running the same test every day is not fun. So that change focus. And one thing that is frustrating for me, that doesn't look like tools keep up with that trend. Yeah, everybody is talking about it, and many things not too difficult to implement, but nobody doing that.
So the commercial vendor that makes the tool is behind where everybody wants to be today, and there's a struggle there. Is that what you're saying?
There is some crisis in commercial load testing tools, in my opinion. Who left?
Right.
Yeah, we still have load runner, but I'm not sure how quickly they keep up with it. I
So there's a
see
little bit
that
of a curve there.
3/4 of people on my LinkedIn who work on load runner are somewhere else.
Right.
Very active is Neotis. They do good job, but it is a rather small company, as far as I understand, and that's about it.
So you have these players, but then you have the open source tools, and they should really, in my opinion, they shouldn't be lagging behind because they're open source. If you don't have a feature that you need, you write it, right?
That rather proof my point in our discussion about seal.
Oh, he's bringing up the seal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to talk about this.
Yes. So it looks like most performance testers are not so good performance engineers.
I would agree with that.
That looks like very few people contributing these open source tools, and those people who contribute are rather software engineers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they stuck with load testing tools.
Mm-hmm.
And people who devoted themselves to performance testing looks like not contribute so much.
Right. They just take. They don't. But that was the whole premise: is you should be a good citizen and give back.
Yeah, but you probably can give back some ideas and that, but I'm not sure that performance testers all are very good software engineers and love to do it, develop these tools on their free time.
So it
just means that it has two different things.
It's two different skill sets, right?
Yeah.
Well, so the idea of the seal, since I have him in front of me, I can explain this better maybe. The seal was supposed to be more of a internal consultant who had vast experience, and I mean hands-on experience, not just reading. And let's say you have a scrum team of 8 people, and then you have 20 scrum teams. You want to make performance as self-service for them as you can. Make it easy for them to do unit performance test, or even be responsible for all of the code all the way to deployment, including performance testing. But they're going to run into issues because none of them generally, they don't have the type of deep technical skills that you need across the life cycle, including all the way to the business. A SEAL would be somebody who thinks about how it affects the business and can move all the way back and as deep into the stack as they need to help advise them when these teams run into issues. So it's not like you have to have this whole big bunch of SEALs running around. They're just like we don't have special forces, in the Army. They're not all SEALs. You have this group that helps aid when they need to move the rock forward down, up the hill, so to speak. And so they would help them, but they would get the whole picture. They would be hovering above that life cycle, seeing the bigger picture, whereas this team is usually so focused on their little world and their code. Well, is my code performing? Well, yeah, that's great, but you're not thinking about the network engineer over here who's also saying he's not having a problem. or the database DBA who's saying, I'm not having a problem. But a SEAL looks at all of that and says, let's get all of you talking the same language, looking at the same things, and then thinking, even if everybody seems to be okay, in other words, their world is okay, but if the end user still says it's slow, the customer's right, it's slow. And they would help advise in any of those areas. Is that not a good title for that, a software engineer across the life cycle with an emphasis on performance?
And let's first get to your, I have two different thoughts about it. First, about your statement, and actually I disagreed in one point. With what you told now, I agree completely.
Okay.
In some time ago, it was often named Performance Engineering Center of Excellence. Now people invent new name, but same idea. But you said that this person should go and fix problem in the code.
Well, he or she could, if they had to. Because in a smaller company, they may have to wear multiple hats. A company like Oracle, there's no way, right? But they have the capability to go that deep if they needed to. So by any means am I a developer. But if I need to get down and dirty into the code and understand what it is, I can use the skill sets I've learned over the last 25 years to fix that problem if I needed to.
I guess I could go into code to find the problem and understand it, but I would be just reluctant to fix it because that code, for example, for our products, many years and many layers of code, and if code is there, it may be some reason for that. So there is, it is very complicated code, and there is very complicated consideration. If you come from performance perspective, how you know that all these parts can be changed, that you don't broke something else. And if you say that you should know well all that code, maybe some people who work on that project and are performance engineers might do that, but I wouldn't believe that it would be a typical case.
I see your point, and to your point, I'm not going to be able to tell a developer who wrote the code at Oracle how to rewrite their database engine, right? But what I could do is help them if they're in a need to solve a problem, and if I need to bring additional expertise or help them with another tool that helps get them to the needle that's in the haystack, that's the problem, I can help them get there maybe faster and then get it on. But as far as rewriting the code, that's going to be their responsibility. So we agree on that.
Yes, and why I say spend so much time talking about it, because I see that trend that many companies want to hire somebody who find problem and fix it. So they don't want to have separate performance engineers. They want to have just one more software engineer who will develop code and along the way.
The SRE, the site reliability engineer. That's Google's definition of a find it and fix it person, where you spend 50% of your time, in theory, writing code. If you have to write a driver to fix a problem, but you're spending 50% of your time in operations. It's not necessarily working out.
Still, it is mostly about some scripting code, deployment code. No? Usually, I haven't read that they want them to develop, say, database engine in parallel.
Right.
So that is only my concern here. And another concern, there were several presentations right along to the MasterCard, whereby people working in that direction, and I understand the reason behind it, because again it becomes simpler to test with agile technology, but as I mentioned many times a long time ago, a performance team doesn't scale. So before you, for example, you work for the company, you have 10 projects, and once a year for each project you run some tests and say fix problem or just okay or whatever. But now it looks like you need to work with every team all the time.
Right.
And
right.
nobody will hire 10 times more engineers. So
Right.
we need to figure out a new way. And looks like something like this performance as service, center of excellence, accelerate service, or whatever the name is. Looks like the way how it will go. So
Almost like an internal consulting organization.
yes, looks like you just cannot run all this tests. So UI help them to do some automation, help them with tests, but you cannot spend all the time looking into it. Somebody else should.
And so that is what at the conference here at CMG, we had Wayfair talking about the performance engineering as a service, PEAS as a shortcut name, and there's probably something to that. So that's something we should
And
expect.
yesterday we had presentation from MasterCard on the same topic.
Right. So that's what people are talking about.
Another stack, but the same idea.
Well, there you have it from the mouth of the expert online, Alex. And thank you so much for being on the performance tour. And we'll see you on the road, and we'll see you on the road. Thank you for joining in with us. And now let's go back in time for another classic barbecue review. This time, it's from 2006, Bridges BBQ in Shelby, North Carolina. They've been serving barbecue for 60 years. Let's see what I think about it.
So this is a review of Bridges BBQ in Shelby, North Carolina. And one thing that I did notice about this, I was surprised because it wasn't just a vinegar on the meat. It was a red-based sauce that had molasses in it, which was kind of unusual on chopped pork. And I thought we were still on the side of the country that of Carolina where it was just vinegar-based. That was interesting. I didn't too much like the sauce as much as I thought I would. I mean, it was good, but the reason why is I just personally don't like molasses. So I don't like baked beans with molasses in it or anything like that. So that's my personal thing. But I did like the chopped pork alone or with some hot sauce on it. It was excellent, and I actually think that it was some of the better chopped pork that I've had. It didn't have a smoked flavor, and we talked to the waitress. She said that that's because they use direct heat over coals and not they don't smoke the meat. So that's the way they do it there. The sides were okay. I like the hush puppies about the best of the sides. French fries were French fries. Now what was interesting was the slaw was a ketchup-based slaw, and that's really unusual. I've never had that before. I'm not sure if I like it or not yet, so I haven't made up my mind on that. The baked beans did not taste like they were changed in any way from the can. They kind of tasted like they were kind of heated up from a can, but they didn't have a lot of additional spice or additional flavoring. So I'd have to give this place a total of probably a 6.5, which is still good for a barbecue place. They would have gotten a 7 if I would have liked all the beans and all that stuff. If that had been the best I'd ever tasted. But it is not Carolina barbecue, so I can't rate them against Bill Spoon's, which we had 2 days ago. Bill Spoon's was minced pork, this was chopped pork. So that's Scott Moore's barbecue review of Bridges.